how to choose your solicitor, and what questions to ask them. So who am I? I'm David. I was arrested for a criminal offence and I was on bail for 3 years before the case against me was dropped in a Crown Court in the UK. Check out my other videos for further information. The usual disclaimer, I'm not a legal professional and the thoughts, advice and reflections herein are my own as a layperson. I recommend you get advice from a properly qualified legal professional. Okay, so you've been arrested, let's say, and you turn up at the police station. You will need a solicitor. You always ask for a solicitor. The police will ask you, do you want one? And you say yes. I've covered this in other videos. You do not want to have a formal police interview without a solicitor or a public defender if you're in the States. So think of it like this. It is to protect you from the police. Assume the police want to lock you up. You are the opposition. If you don't, then you're gambling and the stakes are very high indeed. Your marriage, relationship, your house, your jobs, and your ability to earn a living, the ability to travel in the future, your mental and physical health. So if you get into trouble with the police, then there is nothing in your life that it will not touch. It'll touch everything. So you have to get a solicitor. So having the right choice of solicitor and barrister is crucial. So the solicitor liaises with the police and you about preparing your legal business. The barrister will actually represent you in the courtroom. So these are 7 questions that you can ask your solicitor or public defender at the police station. These are the types of things you need to know. First question, are you a criminal lawyer? You always want a criminal lawyer, not a friend who has some legal experience or a lawyer or solicitor working in other fields of law, company law, financial law. It has to be a criminal lawyer. That's very, very important because then they'll be familiar with what you're up against. Question 2, if they are a criminal lawyer, and they should be because you've asked them, and you've made sure they are, and presumably you've met them at the police station, they should know about PACE, ideally inside and out. So in the UK, what is PACE? PACE is the Police and Criminal Evidence Act 1984. I've done a whole separate video on this, so check that out. Put simply, it is the procedures by which the police hold you and they must follow you in interviewing and how they process you through the legal system. So PACE describes what the police can do and what they cannot do, and in so doing it protects you and your rights as an arrested person. There are various sections in there and appendices that cover things like arrest and interviews and the handling of materials and DNA, and your solicitor as a criminal solicitor should know it pretty much inside out. It's about 100 pages long and I cover it in my other video, so check that out. It's called the Police and Criminal Evidence Act 1984, and there'll be something similar for the US, I'm sure. Third question, what do they, the solicitor or public defender, need from you right now or in the immediate future? Any documentation, any information? It is unlikely that they'll need anything straight away unless it relates directly to the case. In my instance, the solicitor said there was nothing I could do. An allegation had been made against me, and so it was a matter of waiting for the police to conduct an investigation and come up with some information and share it. That said, what I did and what you should be doing is start compiling information anyway. So even if the solicitor says there's no need to do anything right now, let's wait and see, start compiling information on that. And I've done a separate video on that, 20 things to do after your arrest. And I'm also doing another video as we speak on the 26 or so documents you should start compiling. So there's no harm getting a head start on that, but you should check out the other videos on that for details. Question 4. So what should you do as the defendant about your circumstances? What about your work, your job, your employer? Who do you tell? The solicitor or public defender should give you an idea of what you can do and what you can't do. Does your arrest affect employment, travel? Presumably you've been bailed, so there might be certain bail conditions. You don't want to get into further trouble by violating any sort of bail conditions. So ask your solicitor what you can do and what you can't do. Question 5. So what are they going to do off their own bat? What information will they gather? Put them on the spot. What are they going to do while you sit on bail for 3, 4, 5 months? I was on bail for 2.5 years before I was charged. Is there something they could be doing while we wait? There might be a number of things that they can do that you can't, so you can ask them, test them. They might say there's nothing they can do, they just have to wait as well, but they might be able to start the ball rolling on things like disclosure of information held by the police. So in my case, the police were acting on intelligence that they wouldn't share at the interview, but the solicitor could have started the ball rolling and trying to dig a bit deeper, possibly. Question 6. What experience do they have of similar cases? How do they see it playing out for you? What is their reading of the police and the police's case? This might be useful even if you've just had one interview. If they're a criminal lawyer, then they should be able to have a gauge on the seriousness of the case and its potential. They might have a few ideas on what you should be doing while you wait. If there is a criminal charge on the horizon, they should be able to advise on what law and what regulation you might have violated, under what Police and Crime Act, for instance, you have been arrested. What is the likely charge? And you can go away and start doing some research. You'll be hanging around for possibly many months, so get busy and make the most of it. If they are unfamiliar with the police and their procedures, then they might not be able to give too much information, make a judgment, but you need to press them if at all possible. So knowledge of the law and the options and PACE, which is the Police and Criminal Evidence Act, which I mentioned earlier, and the technicalities therein, for instance, abuse of process. Those kinds of things you need to get a handle on as soon as possible, and if they can give a steer on that, pulling on experience they have of similar cases, that would be very good. They might be able to give some examples. I was in some meetings with the solicitors, I asked for similar examples of what had happened. So again, I could get a gauge on where my case sat in the sort of legal process. And finally, question 7, who can you talk to or consult? That they might be able to point you in the direction of some other organisation or other solicitors or colleagues that you could sit down and talk to. Charities, support groups, or websites, or documents, or criminal guides perhaps available in libraries that you could consult. Give you some pointers on what you could do while you sit around. Who knows, they might give you advice on reading some books by people who've gone through this kind of thing. But I think you're going to be sitting around for a while, so there's no harm that you ask them to give you guidance on what kinds of things you should be reading up on. And that's it really. Those are just 7 quick and simple questions to ask your solicitor. So you might not be able to do this immediately after you've walked out at the police station or in the meeting before you go into the interview, but there's no harm shortly afterwards jotting down some of these questions and emailing them. They might do it without charging you. Sometimes there might not be any legal fee, but you could pick up the phone and just ask them a few questions to get a steer on some of these things. I will do another video on what to ask a barrister should your case go to court. There might be some overlap, but I think there are some specific questions it would be helpful for you to ask. And do check out my other videos which cover some of these things. Again, a lot of it relates to how you deal with your case and how specific your case and what kind of charge you might be up against. But I hope this will give you an idea of some of the things, some of the basic matters you can cover. Okay, thank you. Thank you for tuning in. Please do like and subscribe and check out the other videos. If you want to support me, that would be a great help and much appreciated. You can buy me a coffee. Follow the link in the description, or you can even check out the books, Mad as Hell Parts 1 and 2. Part 1 is the 899 days on bail before I was charged, and then Part 2 is the 7 months of the trial preparation before the case against me was dropped. The ebook and paperback is available on Amazon. Search for Mad as Hell by David M. Anderson, and you could probably go into a bookshop and they could order it from their systems as well. And of course, if you or a loved one are experiencing legal troubles yourself, I hope you found this channel and video useful, and the very best of luck. Thanks.